guarantee I can launch my level. I want to see the king of rapping his And I know that in this morning, I will take a whole heap of people. I don't want to lose the job, but it is I'm leaving everything to him. But we're delighted to have sponsored this. And I want to congratulate the Chamber for putting on such a forum. We need more of that to bring Montego Bay together. And when I look around and see the number of people who have attended, you must feel good, President. So, we are a sponsor, a big size sponsor too. And I want you to enjoy breakfast.
Thank you very much, Honorable Godfrey Dyer. And of course, we wouldn't be able to have it as lavishly as we are without the energy. And we're going to invite Mr. Leroy Reed, who is the Regional Director, Distribution Southwest, Jamaica Public Service Company, to come and to bring greetings on behalf of the sponsor, Jamaica JPS.
Greetings, pleasant good morning. So, ex officio JPS family member Conrad Robinson. Ex officio, but you can't be ex officio to Shura. To Shura Gibbs, Miss JPS, good morning. So, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, Minister of Tourism, His Worship, the Mayor, recently minted at the National Awards. A round of applause for the Mayor. Councillor Obi Davis, my pastor, Custos Rotodorum, the Honorable Conrad H. Pitkin, my pastor, Honorable Godfrey Dyer, President Winston Lawson, Mr. Lloyd B. Smith, Mr. Ian Deere, Chairman TPDCO, Mr. Robin Russell, General Manager Deja Resorts, Mr. Kerry Moore O'Connor, Mr. Trevian Manning, distinguished, I got something wrong? Oh, okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. I remember a politician from the other divide, whenever he came to Montego Bay and he said good morning, and we were puny in our response, he said good morning. All right. such former minister shall remain unnamed. All right, so I quickly want to acknowledge the presence of my JPS colleagues. Mr. Blaine Jarrett, Senior Vice President, Energy Delivery. Blaine, could you stand? A member of our executive leadership team. To Blaine's left, we have Julia. Julia Gordon is our client relations and new business manager. I'll jump to Ruben Thomas. Ruben, can you stand? So Ruben is our director for our Bogue Generation plant. We have Vivian Lysed. She's our customer care manager for St. James and Hanover. To Vivian's left is Anake Toyloy Banks. She is key account executive, key account manager. Kenroy Williams to her left. Kenroy. We then have Kenny Wilkinson. He's the man whenever you have any reliability issues for St. James and Hanover. I think you all know Kenny, right? And then Royal Barnett and Simonees Williams to his left, who are also key account managers. So that's the JPS family, and we're at your disposal. So this morning, very quickly, we'll be very quick. We want to talk about partnerships. A few comments about the recent OUR 2018 rate determination. Savings for customers like yourselves, and then investing to secure our future. So it's with really great pleasure that JPS is partnering today with the Montego Bay Chamber to host Mobe Invest 2018. We value partnerships here at the JPS. We value our partnership with the Chamber. We value our partnership with the business community, and by extension we value our partnership with the customer base at large. We believe that partnerships are essential for the advancement of any nation, for every industry, and for all businesses. This is the guiding principle behind JPSCO's decision to invest, get this, US $116 million in 2018. US $116 million in 2018 to add new generation capacity and continue the modernization of Jamaica's electrical infrastructure. So the new 190 megawatt plant energy plant in Old Harbour that's coming on stream. So my boss, Billy Jarrett, who was introduced earlier, spends his nights and days and evenings and weekends driving that to completion. So let's give Blaine a round of applause, because that's of significant import for our country. So JPS, so a few words now about the 2018 rate determination. JPS's strategic objective is to balance the needs of our electrical grid, whilst at the same time balancing your needs as customers. So you may have heard of the recent announcement by the OUR of its 2018 rate determination, which results in a 0.5% increase in the bills of residential and small commercial customers, and equally a 0.5% in this instance decrease in the bills of large commercial and industrial customers. So let's talk a little now about savings for customers and investing for the future. So one of the objectives of the rate determination is to allow customers to benefit from cost savings at JPS, while at the same time allowing the company to continue investing in critical projects to modernize the energy sector and to reduce your bills over the long run. So the modest, and this really was a modest adjustment in rates, right? The modest adjustment in rates is as a result of the benefit of several JPS cost-saving initiatives which are being passed on to you, our valued customers. So these include the company's plan to refinance long-term debt in order to reduce interest rates, which results in direct savings that will be passed on to you. So the fact that we have also reduced our operating and maintenance expenses in 2018 at JPS by 10% is part of our strategic thrust to reduce costs that are again passed on to you. So on the other hand, it is important for us as a utility company to be able to continue to invest in the construction of more efficient power plants like the 190 megawatt plant that we made reference to earlier, and the development of a smarter, more robust grid to improve the quality of services that we provide. So as an example, under our ongoing grid modernization project, we continue to invest in technological innovations such as trip savers, distribution automation switches, and fault circuit indicators on our distribution network to reduce the duration of outages that are caused by temporary or intermittent faults such as lightning or vegetation that momentarily gets in contact with our lines. So presently, one of our immediate areas of focus is the completion of the new 190 megawatt LNG plant in Old Harbour, which will see a reduction in the country's dependence on heavy fuel oil and the production of much cleaner energy for our country. We're in the business of safeguarding the planet for our future. We are not going to get into the debate about climate change. We're doing something about it. And the Prime Minister spoke eloquently about that on the international stage and more recently nationally. So in closing, as JPS continues to invest to support the objectives of Jamaica's national energy policy, we remain mindful of the impact on you, our customers. In essence, what we're saying is we recognize the important role of the energy sector in supporting investment and helping you to improve the efficiencies of your own operations. Finally, in closing, we give you our commitment today, as always, that we will continue to seek ways to reduce the cost of electricity that you bear. While at the same time we commit that we will continue to work to provide you with a more sustainable delivery of service and a sustainable and an improved and a sustainable customer service experience. We're really honored and pleased today to have the opportunity to be here, and we wish you good luck and good success at the forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leroy. And JPS has always been and continue to be a key strategic partner in the development of our country. And when it comes down to investment and investment activities and so on, the cost of energy is a critical factor that is considered by investors and so on. So we're happy to hear that JPS is working on the diversification of its fuel source to ensure that we get electricity delivered to us at a less expensive rate than currently applies. So thank you very much, JPS. We also want to thank TEF again, because we had an earlier discussion with Mr. Dyer, and the TEF is also integral in terms of some of the investment or facilitating some of the investment activities that we are pushing for as a chamber. And so we really want to thank TEF for coming on board and supporting us in the substantial way that they have. And ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our sponsors. We could not have done this without them. And Margaritaville as well, I'm told, yes? And I'm sure certain people in the room would not allow us to leave without mentioning the fact that Margaritaville is on board as a sponsor of this event as well. So Margaritaville. And so before I get myself in any more trouble, I'm going to invite Director Nadine Spence to come, who is going to introduce us our guest speaker for the morning.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Recognized for his wide-ranging expertise and accomplishments in the political arena, Honorable Edmund Bartlett has given over 35 years of service to Jamaica, working in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Mr. Bartlett was appointed Minister of Tourism in 2007, serving until December 2011. Prior to his appointment, he already had a solid track record of service as an outstanding legislator in central government in both chambers of parliament. While serving in the shadow cabinet following his first stint as tourism minister, Mr. Bartlett traveled the world forging alliances with strategic partners for global initiatives. He returned to the helm of the Ministry of Tourism following his party's victory in Jamaica's February 2016 general election. As one of the world's leading tourism ministers, Mr. Bartlett has represented Jamaica regionally and internationally. Recently, he chaired the Board of Alliance affiliate members of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, and during his first tenure as tourism minister, he served as vice chairman of the Executive Council of the UNWTO representing the Americas. He is the first to serve on the executive of both the public and private sector arms of the prestigious organization. Mr. Bartlett has also served on the Council of Ministers of the Caribbean Tourism Organization and as Vice Chairman of CTO. The wealth of experience has made him a much sought after speaker at tourism-related fora. Mr. Bartlett is an ardent proponent of public-private partnerships, which he considers essential to the sustainable development of the tourism industry. These alliances span the various sectors locally and internationally that make up tourism, including transportation, agriculture, and manufacturing. Some of these partnerships have taken the form of foreign direct investment, particularly in the area of accommodation. Tourism has been positioned by Mr. Bartlett as a catalyst for economic growth and the transformation of communities. He has established 5 networks: gastronomy, shopping, health and wellness, sports and entertainment, and knowledge. To fuel growth and initiated the tourism linkage network within the Ministry to strengthen sustainable linkages between tourism and the sectors of the economy. The region has also benefited from Mr. Bartlett's innovative thinking as he views other Caribbean and Latin American destinations not as Jamaica's competitors, but as partners that can use their combined tourism offerings to attract more visitors to experience multi-destination tourism. He has taken bold steps to have this facilitated under a special memorandum of understanding between nations in the region. Mr. Bartlett has copped numerous awards. Recently, he was awarded Minister of the Year worldwide by the Pacific Area Travel Writers Association. Minister of the Year worldwide by the Pacific Area Travel Writers Association in March 2018, and Caribbean Tourism Minister of the Year at the Caribbean Travel Awards in 2017. He was also the recipient of the 2016 Caribbean Tourism Minister of Distinction Award at the recent African Diaspora World Tourism Awards. In 2016, he was awarded Caribbean's leading personality for outstanding services to tourism at the 23rd World Travel Awards. And in 2012, Mr. Bartlett was conferred with the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander for outstanding and important services to Jamaica, and in 2010 was conferred with the Commander of Number of the Order of Civil Merit of Spain on the Order of the King of Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, good people of Montego Bay and its surrounding environment, let me welcome the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, MP, Minister of Tourism, the ever-smiling, charming Mr. Bartlett. And in support of breast cancer awareness, I am tagging him this morning. Welcome. My kissy friend.
Wow. Thanks, Denise. We sat there a while ago and swore that was an obituary. And so I had to look at the graph to see that it really is not a linear, but it's actually oscillatory. So I know I'm alive. Your Worship, the Mayor of Montego Bay, our first citizen. And Custis Bidkin, you would appreciate that he comes before you when you are in his city. So, the Honorable, Bishop the Honorable, Conrad Pitkin, our Custis, President of the Chamber, and declaring here that there's no nepotism involved. There's a familial strain, but there's no nepotism. The newly minted and perhaps most celebrated OJ in the recent investiture at King's House, Chairman of the TEF, the Honorable, and it sounds nice to say, right? The Honorable Godfrey and he told me that among the things I must say is that this piece of the highway that is being called Godfrey Dyer Highway must be fixed in such a manner that it befits the Honorable and not just Godfrey. Chairman, dear and dear from the TPD Group, distinguished partners all, and I like the word partner because it suggests a kind of an organic relationship. Montego Bay is very special to all of us, and this is why I'm really delighted to see people who are here representing not just commercial Montego Bay, but what I'm looking at is all segments of our wonderful city. And I suppose that I would be remiss if I did not, in my salutations, make very special mention of one who has over the years maintained, even when he sought to be something else, but he has maintained that he is governor of Montego Bay. No wonder he didn't stay in the other little, what I call diversion, too long, because truly he is the governor, and the governor does not play with tenure. He's governor for life. Lloyd B, wonderful to see you, as always. Really been an inspiration to so many. A little controversial at times, but that's what makes it exciting to be around him. Today we want to talk a little bit about our town, and we want to talk about the opportunities that tourism offers for our town, while we're looking specifically at one or two areas. And so I know that the panel, that is really a very competent panel to deal with the critical areas that are going to hopefully emerge from a few points that I make, if I'm so honored. But also that I would ask for your forgiveness if I'm not able to stay throughout that, because I have another engagement in Ocho that we have to make around midday today. And you understand how active tourism is. And because it's no longer a seasonal industry, nor is it an industry that is confined to specific areas called resorts. You will notice now that entire Jamaica is one resort. We don't have any little resorts anymore, so it's everywhere. So, Montego Bay we regard, however, as the tourism capital of the Caribbean. And the tourism sector plays a very critical role as a revenue earner, job creator, and catalyst for Montego Bay's development. We know that Mobay was a sleepy little fishing village town. In fact, Montego Bay was called Montego, the Bay of Lards. And in those days, the Cubans used to come to Montego Bay to buy lard, because we were one big pig pen other than having a fishing arrangement. And tourism came and transformed Montego Bay. And that is the impact that tourism has on communities. And if you go all around the island, you will see. A couple of days ago I was in Salem. Well, 2 days ago I was in Salem for another reason, but a few days before that I was in Salem celebrating the 50th anniversary of Club Caribbean, which is now the Cameron. And it was brought forcefully to me that before Club Caribbean, Salem was just a swampy little wetland area along the coast between St. Anne's Bay and Discovery Bay. Today, Salem is one of the most active and most progressive and effective commercial strip between Ocho and Montego Bay, and all because of tourism. A few years ago, Ocho was just a little sleepy fishing village. Today, Ocho is arguably the most important cruise destination and perhaps the most exciting family destination in the entire Caribbean. Negril, again, was just a strip of wetlands. with peat deposits. Today, Negril is celebrated as one of the most exciting destinations for leisure and casual tourism anywhere in the region. Jobs have been created. 50 years ago, 400,000 people visited Jamaica for tourism purposes, and they spent 87 million US dollars. Last year, 4.3 million people visited Jamaica and spent 3 billion US dollars. So far this year, 3.2 million people have already visited, and they have spent $2.5 billion. And on the current projection, we will have pretty close to 4.5 million visitors this year, and the spend will be $3.3 billion. Montego Bay represents 33% of that. Because of the rooms that are available in Jamaica, Montego Bay has a third. In terms of the visitor arrivals and consequent spent, Montego Bay represents that too. So what we're seeing is that the heart of tourism is in Montego Bay. The essence of what we're about is in Montego Bay. So I want you to engage your thoughts a little bit on discussing how we can use that essence to create greater value and enrichment and in the end prosperity. Because normally we think of tourism simply as an activity which brings people across borders. And of course we learn that they pay for that experience. But what we haven't learned is how to enable the value of their presence to enrich the communities around which the facilities for them are created. And yesterday I was talking to some investors, and they said to me, tourism investors, they said to me that, look, Jamaica is not getting the kind of investment that DOMREP is getting and that Mexico is getting. And the reason that it's not happening, they say, is that tourism costs are too high. So the internal rate of return on the investment in tourism is lower than those other destinations, even though the ADRs for Jamaica are higher. I think that you will readily see that situation, because if your costs are this, even if your rate is that, your margin is going to be this, right? And that's the issue. So I said, I am fully cognizant of that. But the reason that obtains is the absorptive capacity that those two countries have for tourism demand, as opposed to what we have in Jamaica. What do I mean? Simply that the inputs that build up that cost are sourced locally by and large in those destinations, while we have to import most of ours. So the answer to our reality is to build the capacity locally to supply on the demand that tourism brings. DOMREP grew 7% 2 years ago, 6% last year. And DOMREP is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, not just in the Caribbean. And it is based solely on tourism. Mexico, after NAFTA, became a world economic power because of the transformation to tourism as a result of the expansion of the Yucatan Peninsula in particular, that has brought nearly 70,000 new rooms into Mexico. What that has done is to create demand for more agricultural products. As you know, 42% of the consumption of a visitor in any destination is food. 42% of their spend is food, which is one of the reasons you see we talk about gastronomy as a key network. 67% of the visitors of the world travel for shopping experiences. And then health and wellness has now become the big driver, particularly for people like me and you, Lloyd B. The baby boomers who continue to be zoomers and think that they can't die. But they are the richest segment of the global demography, no question about that. And then entertainment and sports and music and knowledge. And we have seen that. So what has happened is that when you go to DOMREP, and I'm going to close off that little analysis in 2 seconds. When you go to DOMREP, you see that the large agricultural patches are all over the place. When I went there with Edward Siaga in 2001, and we started looking at how tourism should be done in Jamaica, we flew to Punta Cana. And Barcelona was just developing their hotel garden, if you want to call it, hotel park. They were building 8 hotels along the beach, each with a different theme. But what was significant is that they had 3,000 acres of agricultural farm 2 minutes down the road. So when we thought it through at that time, we wanted all-inclusives as we know it to be on the southern side of the island, over Hellshire. And then we would use the agricultural lands that would have now resulted from the Bernard Lodge estate, which had gone sour. And those lands would become the areas for you to produce the agricultural crops that are required to feed the visitor. So we were tying the linkages immediately. So Montego-based growth, back to this, and I also will make the point very quickly that when you go to DOMREP, you also see textile manufacturing around. So the uniforms for the industry are produced there. So you will also see processing plants. So the chutneys and the jams and the jellies are produced there. I'm making the point that to build out a tourism economy that must be beneficial to Montego Bay, the backward and forward linkages must be in place. And when that happens, then tourism costs begin to fall. And even when we, at the national level, treating with fiscal arrangements for tourism investment, can then play it soft on taxation at the front end. Because at the back end, you're going to be gaining it from the revenues from consumption. So we have to now look at a new architecture for tourism. And I want you panelists to spend a minute on that notion of a new architecture that will focus a lot on the supply side. Because we are growing exponentially on the demand side, no question about it. More hotel rooms are being built. Montego Bay is scheduled to get 1,100 new rooms of waiting ground within another 2 months in Rose Hall for the Hard Rock Hotel. And not another word about that. The new arrangement with Playa is going to see the expansion of their own inventory a new tower to be built at Palmyra, expansion of the Hilton, and then there's another lot beside that to be taken up. I'm in the discussion with Foxwood about Success Pen. We are looking at the expansion now you see of Half Moon, and Sandals expand every day, as you notice. Every time you go there, something new is happening there, and this is a hallmark of what innovation is, and that's what tourism is about. It's all about change, freshness, newness, because the visitor is always coming back to see something else, something different, something they never knew existed. But it always has to be top of mind and to blow away their imagination. They would never believe it is so. So things are happening. Then over in Freeport, there is two very important development to take place there for, again, expansion of rooms. I'm not going to be preempting that announcement, but just to tell you that two very important developments are now on the cards there, and after the mayor has finished with them, I think I can then announce, right, Mr. Mayor? But it's going on. And then on the hip strip, we have active development taking place, and I have put the brand with the investors already, so they are talking about building a high-rise on the strip, which will be an EP, and we'll have somewhere in the region of about 200 rooms. So the expansion of the room is coming, so the demand is going to grow for what we're talking about. So panelists, take note of that. Secondly, we're building capacity to enable the people, the workers of the tourism industry, to be able to deliver the highest quality experiences that the visitor requires. But we are doing something else. We are creating a professional pathway to enable the workers of the industry to not just be hewers of wood and drawers of water, but to be professionals, certified in the various disciplines and areas of competence, so that they can demand the kind of respect in the workplace and the kind of remuneration that is consistent with their experience and knowledge. That's very important. 2 days ago, we graduated 350 certified tourism workers, bartenders, 200 of them, and a number of supervisors. And we are giving them certification through the Jamaica Center for Tourism Innovation that will make them have degrees such as the American Culinary Foundation designation, as well as the American Hotel and Lodging Institute designations. That enables them not only to practice their trade in Jamaica, but anywhere in the world that they go, and they will be recognized as professionals. We're in the high schools for the first time at last, with a hotel management development program for the children who would have been going to sixth form, those who have their 6C, and 2 additional years, so it will be grade what, 11 to 13 or 10 to 12, something like that. But what we're providing is 2 years of training towards an associate degree in hotel management. And already 650 of those are enrolled in the program across 32 schools within the resort areas in particular. Yesterday at the graduation, or the day before the graduation at the convention center, we had representatives from Anchovy High School and from St. James High School who are on the program acting as ushers for that occasion. Just to let you know. And finally, in terms of building up the human capital, is that with training and development, I am saying to all, work permits are all going to be tied to the training and development program, so that we can replace within the industry those who we need now to build out capacity with those who we have trained to give the capacity. Very, very important. So I've said that very clear and very distinct. Now, business, hip strip. We're going to be spending somewhere in the region from the TF of nearly $1 billion on developing from the Walter Fletcher Beach, or Dumbo Beach as you call it, straight to dead end over the next 3 years. $700 million will be spent on the Dumbo Beach experience, which will be a come-to-mind experience. We're going to build there for the first time a commercial, recreation, and experiential attraction that will be more than just a beach. It will provide for the citizens of Montego Bay, and I want to make that point very clear. This is not about tourism per se, it is about the people of Montego Bay. And so an entertainment center, which is a missing ingredient in the infrastructure of Montego Bay to enable us to have not just concerts, not just festivals, not just a reggae show, but a performing arts area properly equipped where we can help to present the best of the creative talents of the people of Montego Bay for the world community to enjoy. And the design of that has been done. It is in the mix of the designs that the UDC has that have been presented already to Cabinet, and Cabinet has approved. So we are expecting to start activities there shortly so that Montego Bay could see what we're talking about. The Old Fort Craft Market is a very special area that I think has capacity to be built out into an artisan village, with entertainment and food and other kinds of development. So the TPDCO has been assigned the responsibility of completing the designs for us so that we can start work in that area within this fiscal cycle because we have the resources for it. We are going to pave and reconstruct the entire roadway from the roundabout at Kentucky straight to dead end, and the resources are there for that. And I think Godfrey somewhere near $100 million that we'll be spending to do that and to create a boulevard that is fitting for the hip strip and to put back some dip in the hip of the hip strip. Then we are going to also create walking areas, sidewalk appropriately constructed along the way to allow for pedestrian activity. And we're going to remove all the overhead utility service arrangements and create an underground that's the architect over there. But what we will be doing is to ensure that the unsightliness which now obtains from these dangling wires and poles that are all over the place will be no more. And instead what you will have, however, are well-lit areas with electrification that allows for bright, safe traversing of the hip strip. I am concerned about one matter, two matters on the hip strip as a matter of fact. I mean, we know that the Spanish, what do you call it, the Spanish Court West, is it? S. The S Hotel. That will be ready hopefully the end of this year in time for midway of the winter season. So that one we know of. But we have to develop the will to deal with two serious facilities on the strip that in my mind are inhibiting the growth of the strip. going to need your help to do that, because it's going to require some tough love. Hello? It's going to require some tough love to get it, because we've been waiting a long time, and a lot of interest have been shown, and even discussions had. But I think that we have to decide on what is the public good versus sometimes the personal wish. And there are two particular examples of that which we are going to work on. And I know in my watch, before I go, and it's a long time I'm going to be around, we are going to solve those two problems. And I think you're aware of them. We need not mention them in the public space at this time. Finally, I want to say that the Tourism Enhancement Fund has spent and/or in the process of spending since 2009 a total of $6 billion Jamaican dollars in Montego Bay and its environs. Almost every development that you see that is for public use in Montego Bay has the footprints of the TEF on it. Whether it be the civic center, or it is be the park across the way from the old hospital park, or it is the smart applications that are currently being installed in the city, or it is a modern transportation arrangement and management that has been implemented. They all are bearing. But I want to make the point that we are also making a huge impact on the accommodation for people of the town. Not accommodation now for visitors, accommodation for the people of the town. Tourism Enhancement Fund spent millions of dollars in creating the physical facilities and roads that are in flankers today. It is TEF that built all those roads in flanker. All the roads in Lilliput were done by TEF. All the roads in Norwood was done by TEF. Much of the drainage arrangements that are going on in Montego Bay or that have happened have had the footprints of the TEF on it. And I'm proud to tell you that we're now going to spend $972 million to create a new look Long Bay, Grange Pen, Barrett Hall, to create the continuation of the development of housing for the workers of the tourism industry. The elegant corridor will now become truly elegant. We are insisting on that. And with the new arrangements for the bypass road, or the perimeter road as it is called, we have to look at how we are going to enable the facilitation of more traffic within that area so it operates in a seamless way. And we have to look together at how to build out that corridor. But the last thing I want to say to you is that Montego Bay's development is not contingent on the perimeters of the city as traditionally defined. It is going to be contingent on what is called the Greater Montego Bay area. When we look at how you can develop, it seems very clear. You can't develop to the north because that's the sea. You can't develop to the west because that's Hanover. The south is limestone and very rocky and can be developed but expensive to develop. The areas of natural development is the eastern corridor of Montego Bay. But it can't be the northeast because the northeast has already been defined for tourism and is almost fully utilized. So it has to be within the interior of the East, the Queen of Spain Valley. And so you need to look there to create what I'm calling a tourism innovation city that will provide for the economy of Montego Bay all the necessary inputs. Light industries for textile, to create the sheets and the pillowcases and the uniforms that the visitor and the hotels will buy. The farming in the area, light processing, agro-processing factories, not heavy industrial, light to produce the chutneys and the pepper puris and the tomato paste and the jams and the jellies that are required in the industry. To provide light manufacturing of furniture, to make the chairs and the beds and the lampstands and all of the other furnishings that are required for the tourism industry. To create waste management facilities that does recycling and to take the waste from the hotels and to recycle them and to palletize some of the plastics so you can make avian baskets for your river training and your drains. And you can utilize the backyards and to create also what we call vertical agriculture, which is agriculture produced in a building like this. So we could build plants to make hydroponic and other types of technical and scientific applications work to increase agricultural production for the sector. The point I'm making then is an innovation city is one which is around the economy of a particular activity, where we have what is called a circular economy, where nothing is wasted and everything is utilized fully, and the resources and the income and the earning stays within that space. When we have finished building out Grange Pen and Barrett Hall and those areas, that's going to be a fertile area for a great experiment in terms of what the circular economy means. And I'm going to be driving that. I've already discussed it with the UDC. They have to do a design for me in relation to that area. And we're going to move much of the facilities that are outside of the elegant corridor onto the corridor. Like security from Barrett Town will come down to the front. And a proper clinic, a type 5 clinic, which is needed for the Eastern Corridor to relieve the Cornwall Regional and to be able also to provide affordable health facilities for the people of that area. Because I know that they can't afford what is currently available on the street. So the development of Montego Bay, driven by tourism, is pretty assured. Once our creative impulse get going and we recognize that we have a responsibility to build out the supply side, and if we do that, then tourism costs will go down, competitiveness will increase, and investment will grow exponentially. So we can then say we will transform Montego Bay and its environments from poverty to prosperity.
Thank you very much, Minister Bartlett. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard the broad outline of the investment activities and the development activities that is to take place in the city of Montego Bay. And you have heard the Minister, And in a little while you will hear the panel as they drill down into some of these things that the minister has broadly outlined. But as a part of our responsibility as responsible citizens is to hold our leaders accountable for the projections and the promises that they make. So we have to become active as citizens of the city of Montego Bay to ensure that what has been announced here this morning comes to fruition. Are you in agreement with me? So through your chamber, you are going to be active to ensure that we don't just get announcements, but we are going to get delivery. We're going to invite Janet Silvera, Vice President of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, to come and do a presentation to our minister.
Thank you, but and I start off by saying, I remember back in 1995 when we first started Montego Bay. I'll never forget the day of the opening that the then Minister of Tourism, John Jr., came to me and said, Ian, go and get a brand new bottle of brandy. And I want it completely sealed and I want to open it. I was a little surprised. And when I got the bottle of brandy and we sat down and he opened the bottle, threw the cork in the water and said to us, we're drinking this bottle here tonight. Oh, what a big challenge. He looked at me and said, all I can tell you is that you fellas have big cojones, because in this environment, I don't know if I'm doing what you're doing. And I looked at the Minister of Tourism with a little bit of a surprise and a little bit of concern, because it was my single biggest investment at the time. At the time it was $800,000 US to build a Montego Bay. Anyway, we believed then, and what we still believe now even more so, that we were on to a great thing. So we kept going forward. Today, I'm here to tell you that I have never in my entire professional life, business life, been more optimistic and more bullish about our country, and in particular our city, Montego Bay. And if you look at what the difference has been, there's a fundamental shift in my mind to the direction of the country. To give me confidence as a businessman to continue to invest and to encourage my family members to plant even deeper roots, to raise their own families, because there's no place better than Jamaica right now in my mind. And I fundamentally believe that this is the whole foundation of this coming to pass is because we have the right leadership in government. And the whole lesson in my mind, we could not ask for a better Prime Minister, or a Prime Minister that should not be represented for the foreseeable future. And his cabinet, if you look at the leadership that they have provided in the different areas of our business, and primarily tourism, not because he's here, but he's my minister, and I'm here to tell you that the man is, I don't even know where he gets his energy from. When he travels, he's not only traveling for the sake of travel, because he comes back with results each and every single time. The difference for me is when politicians like to talk, we all know that. The huge difference for me is that they bring the results. These guys have been working. You see it all around us. And I was speaking to business people in Kingston up to yesterday, and the energy and the excitement around the potential of where we are now is unprecedented in my mind. So we just finished one of our main investments. We've invested probably 30 million US as a group And that table over there represents a lot of our leadership. Stand up, guys. Because the truth is, we couldn't do what we do without that leadership. Very proud of us. Thank you. And so, in the last year, we have just finished investing $10 million US in building our Carlsbad. In the last 3.5 years, we've invested in excess of $35 million. And we have a lot more in the pipeline because we believe, even though we have a regional outlook, that there is no better place to invest than where we are sitting here today. And it's a very exciting time for us. As far as I'll speak briefly to my privileged role as the chairman of TPDCO. It has allowed me to hopefully be a guide and participate in our national development. But even closer to my heart is obviously our republic, because ultimately I'm a Republican. And I came from, like, the forefather over there, city father, and apparently I have two daddies, one Winston and one Godfrey. I don't know how that happened. And they're both Republicans. And, you know, so I came up with that pride of place. And I'm 52, so, and I've been in business for 30 plus years. What has happened in Montego Bay over time, and more acutely more recently, is simply unbelievable. And so I want to ensure that I am able to play an integral role in the development of our city. And of course, with particular focus for tourism for the country, but of course, as I said, we have to look after our hometown. Hip Strip is clearly also very important for me. That's where I was born in tourism 23 years ago. And it has gone through a cycle or cycles of the dip and the hip and those elements not being quite as shiny as it was. But I am confident that with our minister, and I spoke to the Prime Minister up to yesterday, that everybody is fully committed to achieving every single resort space in Jamaica, and in particular the Hip Strip, to give it a new shine, to take it to a new level. Because, you know, the minister talks about supply chain, and I think that's a very critical component to us participating in the economy as it grows. But tourism cannot only be represented behind the walls that embrace and do a great job in putting guests coming to Jamaica into beds and in a great space in their resorts. It must represent a Jamaican experience of coming out of those resorts into the public space, like the Hip Strip, like Otrias Main Street, like the Nibble Boulevard, like Falmouth. And the only way that becomes a reality in my mind is if we make it into a product that is a demand experience. So it's not about marketing to those customers necessarily. It's about them understanding that when people come into those spaces, there's such a great experience happening that they demand to be taken to be a part of that experience. And those type of efforts are transformational. So when you have the new hotels coming online on the Strip, for example, and hopefully it'll end up with being 1,000 rooms or more. When you have that foundation and the energy happening on a Strip that has been properly resurrected and properly designed, and you've created a space that everybody can be proud of and are excited to be a part of, the level of commerce that could take place could be unbelievable. And so those type of efforts, I believe, are very critical for our tourism and for the future of places like Montego Bay and our other resort towns. So the one other thing that I want to mention before I sit back down is that we also have an opportunity to leverage government, because we actually have 3 cabinet ministers that are based here, that are big influencers. The Prime Minister has declared that he's very supportive of all our efforts. And we have a mayor that, in my opinion, is probably one of our best mayors we've ever had. The man gets things done. And so all references that I have made to people that I believe are our leaders is only really, at the end of the day, the basis is them performing and delivering on whatever they've said they're going to do. So to Conrad's point, yes, your chamber, the chamber needs to make sure that you do your part. But you know, we do have people that are delivering, but keep pushing them. And so with that, obviously we'll have a bit more time happening after this. But I'm excited, both as a private businessman and in the public domain, as to where we are as a country and where we are heading. And I look forward to the dialogue to move things forward. Thank you.
Okay, endorsement of tremendous magnitude. Before I introduce our next panelist, it would have been remiss of me if I would not also indicate that we have in our midst what is being referred to as a resource panel. And of course, these are persons who play very critical roles in the overall development of Montego Bay. And so I just want us to welcome wholeheartedly Dr. Marcia Johnson Campbell, who is the Medical Officer of Health, St. James Public Health Services, Mr. Lennox Wallace, the man who chased down the rats, Chief Public Health Inspector, Senior Superintendent Wilfred Campbell, who has been here, and Mr. Garnet Edmonds, who is the Regional Operations Manager for WPM Waste Management. That's the garbage man, I suspect. Where is he? Is that here? Maybe he's busy collecting garbage somewhere. Robin Russell, I owe him a little more intro because we never been justice at all. Robin is currently the chairman of the GHTA Montego Bay chapter. That's a very critical role. And he's currently the general manager and director of Deja Resort, formerly the Gloucestershire Hotel. Let's welcome Robin.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, Jen. As the phoenix rises from the ashes, we see throughout the world where abandoned districts are now the hip places to be. Old warehouses are now clubs and restaurants, and like this, the closed spots of the hip strip are now reopening. Destinations, however, are primarily visited before you get to the destinations. And our main challenge is the comparison between reality and the destination itself. Is Mobile Hip Strip really comparable to South Beach or any major entertainment zone? Do we really come to Jamaica, the home of reggae music, and see reggae bands being played on every street corner? In times of globalization, local identity has become a key concern, and culture, apart from landscape features, the only asset that will set us apart. The cultural content remains the last bastion of local identity. Public spaces in cities must be identified and used as urban entertainment spaces and hubs of cultural advancement. Main aim must be to create in the minds of our visitors and locals alike associations with wealth of our culture and pairing it with the entertainment and our leisure offerings. Destination marketing is essential to town planning, especially with cultural and entertainment industries showing such great growth. Sorry. To create this brand of city, we must choose target persons who also appreciate this association. And in the book, The Rise of the Creative Class and How It's Transforming Work, Leisure, Community, and Everyday Life, it discusses one such people. The author suggests that the physical attractions that most cities focus on building, sports stadiums, freeways, urban malls, and tourism and entertainment districts that resemble theme parks are irrelevant. They're insufficient and actually unattractive to many creative class people. What they're looking for in communities are abundantly high amenities and experiences and openness to diversity of all kinds, and above all else, the opportunity to validate their identities of creative people, millennials. With traditional industries weakening, and we know this through sugar, bauxite, we must embrace new business-like trends motivated by profits. Even in former industrial cities like Chicago, the number one have to go down the road of London, where nighttime activity was targeted by authorities as deviant, and now them having to hire an entertainment czar to try and re-energize that one-time very vibrant industry. So, how do we satisfy our current place users, tourists, and locals alike, while attracting new ones? How do we determine the use of space? Our t-shirt souvenir shops, the Chinese supermarket haberdashery, and then Gucci, high-end Prada lifestyle that we hear about. How do we not end up like Venice, with overruns of tourists, and now the city being compared to Machu Picchu because it is abandoned and nobody lives there? And locally, we all know, don't drive on the hip strip during cruise ship days. How do we stem harassment but not create sterile tourist zones? And how do we share our beaches with locals and tourists alike? We need to introduce order and certainty into what in principle is chaotic reality. For exactly this reason, it is necessary to involve in the city's planning the local population and make every effort to really support local creativity and not only force on a city a plan which benefits a selected few. Thank you.
Godfrey, can you share your OJ with him? Because he has...
Pardon, I will willingly give it to him.
Yes. Because he has certainly hit the nail on the head. You cannot develop a city without the people being an integral part. Well said. I don't understand though, because everybody's talking about hip strip and everything else, but Tishura, what about the cannabis sativa? Mr. Dyer again, sir. Are we going to have a sort of Amsterdam-like experience one of these days? Those who know what and I'm not talking about the red light district, that's fine. No. You and I can deal with that otherwise. may we welcome Mr. Kermore O'Connor. And just to remind you that his major research focus has been on urban design and crime prevention using smart growth strategies. He's of course with the UDC. Welcome in, please.
Good morning. It's morning, right? Breakfast, you like I thought that Mr. Manny was going to be here before, but Alright, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kermore O'Connor. I've been dedicated to Montego Bay since 2 years ago to ensure that the 2010 development plan is seen. Montego Bay has been, the UDC have laid out the plans over the years. So the 2010 development plan from UDC as well as the IDB's one-day overall plan, they share a symbiotic relationship based on the studies that UDC had done before, as well as IDB confirming and publishing it in a one-day overall plan. The UDC, the 2010 plan, of course, did have a lot of stakeholder engagement, taxi association, police, fishermen association, the Chamber of Commerce. We have the Montego Bay Advisory Committee that we meet twice a month, but now we'll be meeting every month. It's through the Montego Bay Advisory Committee, Tadaya, other there. I normally make that meeting every time they normally have the meeting. I'm a son of Kingston, more the rural part, not Kingston. You know, Kingston has Kingston, the city, Kingston, the metropolitan area, the bush part, and who come to school at Kingston. Well, I was in the bush part and come to school at Kingston, take country bus and come at town. So, I have seen a wide country, a cross section of our country. I've seen where the tourism dollar has stretched to my community members who used to sow straw in Lawrence Tavern and come on Montego Bay and Ochi and sell straw. So it's the reverberations of tourism from the center of Montego Bay straight past the hills and valley of Upper St. Andrew and rural St. Andrew. The UDC, we are committed to, there are two projects. As I'll speak to the individual project, but I'll speak broader before. There's a project called Valkyrie, and there's another project called Falcon. Valkyrie is about green spaces, about making public green spaces, one public green space in every town center, every parish, or parish capital throughout Jamaica over the next 10 years. Public beaches, Project Falcon is about creating these proper public beaches. Some minimal paid access, but mostly free access public beach, depending on the business strategy. The UDC, we have set up the project teams. Montego Bay project team has business people on it as well as the more creative people on the team. We integrate that, we assess the business case. What can we use? How can we make money to subsidize free access to these public spaces? How can we, if it can't subsidize itself, where else can we acquire to run a very profitable project or business, or to help to subsidize the public space? That business more likely will not necessarily run by UDC. We'll treat it similar to how we have the speakers lined up. So, private interests sometimes will send in an unsolicited bid. We will then assess that bid and send it out for market, for public. Other people who also have interest can also put in their financial and technical as well as planning or visioning ideas to see who will get the opportunity to embark on that project. That will then be assessed, and using regular procurement guidelines, it will then determine who won the bid that will be made public. So that's how UDC operates. Transparency, that's the aim of it. Now, after that, we'll then go through the regular, so Mr. Manny will come afterwards and approve whatever design solution that will be. And that's how we've been working. And with the TEF and TBD, the UDC has developed a symbiotic relationship as well as with other agencies to ensure that one of the dreams of Montego Bay and the 2010 plan will be realized. With respect to the history, Close Harbour Beach Park, which Jump Up Beach, if you're coming from the western side, is right where downtown meets Hip Strip meets Top Road. That is a critical node where you mark, basically you want to see that become the center of Montego Bay, where you decide if you want to go up and look down on Bottom Road, you want to experience the Hip Strip, or you like to experience downtown. The beach park is about 16.5 acres. It will have a jogging trail, about 700 meters jogging trail. It will have multi-purpose facilities. There will be opportunities for investment of private interests. There will be about 8 kiosks, small kiosks. They are about 250 square foot each. When we laid it out, it will retrofit with a small kitchen as well as serving area. But the dining experience will be more along a boardwalk, along the beach edge, as well as other private eatery areas outside. There is also opportunity for some anchor shops. There are about 2,000 square foot anchor shops. And these are some of our major revenue generation. There's parking spaces. We plan to have that as paid parking, so those will also be revenue generation. Access to the park will be free access. Free park and there are other opportunities for branding. We'll be using big brick pavers in the design. Depending on how much you like to contribute to a fund, there will be a fund set up, and individuals like me or whoever else will be able to deposit a certain amount towards the operations of the park. Your name could be also be branded on those bricks. There are opportunities for other branding for companies. You will be able to, based on all the contributions again, and this will be put out to market, you'll be able to put your mark on this park. Again, this is a transformational project, and Montego Bay deserves it. The UDC initially had that park zone for resort residential. And based on the assessment and the need for green spaces in Montego Bay, it has since changed to green recreational space. And we still don't have enough of those spaces in Montego Bay. And being the tourism mecca, it would be best, we thought it would be best to have an active green space that promotes the mix of locals and tourists alike. We see this as a beginning to the Hip Strip. It was an in-house design. There was a point in time where it was a discussion we should have a competition. The UDC embraces competitions. We've just had the Parliament competition. And from private firms, private architects as partner with international architects also, but Jamaican architects were the lead on these projects. It is now at the semi-final stage. 5 finalists have been selected and they have been shortlisted. The public, I hope you take the chance to go and vote on which parliament building we see Jamaica being the new House of Parliament at Heroes Park. Do go online at ourparliament.com and look at those entries and vote. This shows you the diversity of how the UDC sees it. Montego, and the reason why Close Harbour wasn't done as a competition was because when people say, me type say plan, we want to see something on the ground, something have to make. Montego Bay deserve this. Tourism dollar spend, and we need a public green space for citizens of Montego Bay as well as tourists. Now, so going forward on the Hip Strip, the UDC has embarked on commercialization approach of parking. So we're aiming to roll out like parking structures toward the different designated areas. And as we know, the Hip Strip, one of the biggest calling point or hindrance to more activity on the hip strip is parking. When the vehicle come and they just clock. So it would make sense to do an assessment of like a quarter-mile radius, like a 5-minute walk, and see where best would a parking garage fit. And then you layer that with who owns the land and who are willing to set up this, and the business side of it. Does it make sense to purchase this property to put up a parking garage and then operate? And as more than likely, if UDC embarks on this, it may also go with a public-private partnership. And that is an opportunity where the business side, the sector of Montego Bay can participate into this development. With respect to the hip strip itself, as a destination, I was talking to Mr. Russell spoke about having this, comparing a sterile environment versus having an environment that has loose and not adhering to any planning guidelines, but setting up some form of guideline that will allow the creative class to also enjoy. So the guidelines don't have to be strict. And my charge to the Chamber of Commerce, to the stakeholders on the hip strip is that you form almost like a strata. Develop and work with a creative. Now the UDC is here to assist, to develop some planning guidelines that and visioning exercise that the people of Montego Bay or the stakeholders would like to see or the hip strip become. Start with some little notes so that you can then transform those notes into images. Where did you like? Is it a South Beach feel? Is it a Louisiana Bourbon Street feel? Is it a feel of downtown Montego Bay reaching uptown or reaching hip strip? But we can start this conversation and have a vision of what we'd like to see. The infrastructure will be underground. If the power lines are underground, you can see brighter images, the buildings will be clearer. That's an opportunity now where you have this canvas where you can paint what the vision of the hip strip will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, we are really getting a full dose of what is to come. Incidentally, sir, when I received an email with respect to the Parliament building competition, I had written back to the UDC insisting that it takes the exhibition to Montego Bay, and I got a positive response. So I hope that will happen. Put in our work for us. Because not all of us can have a chance to view it, and that's a very, very important piece of national architecture. Our final finalist is the man who is happily married with 2 daughters, but outside of that, he does other types of planning. Currently president of the Jamaican Institute of Planners, and of course, for the past 20 years and 15 years, he has been well, I don't know if he has been there that long, but at present he is the man with the plan at the St. James Municipal Corporation. So it's a very critical element here, because all that has been said so far, whether it's UDC or TPDCO, he and his team have to pass the plans. Let's welcome him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Our protocols observed. As it says, teamwork makes the dream work. And my fellow panelists, we have all been engaged as members of the Chamber on many different occasions during the work to develop the city of Montego Bay. And as I say, one of the city fathers, Sir Winston there is here. We have had many discussions about the way Montego Bay, and something that he's very passionate about. And from I came to Montego Bay, here I have been having numerous discussions on the way forward. Sometimes I think he did planning in another life. He said that his surveying is what he's most known for, but I think planning is a major part of that. In terms of what the council, we all know the different things that the council is responsible for, and my mayor who left, As was said, the leaders and leadership is very important, and His Worship the Mayor Homer Davis is very passionate about Montego Bay and getting things done. And we are moving assiduously. You can notice that the council has been working with the TAF and the chamber. They have been doing a lot of work. You see the sidewalk projects, the council has been very involved in having those done. Our responsibility spans and touches every sector. We, in terms of looking on the hip strip, parking, places of amusement, the advertisement, the vending, the street vending, the new LED boards that are going up. Advertisement is a very critical area that we're also looking on, and the hip strip now boasts one of the largest LED boards, let's say, in the Caribbean. So that you can see the council has been working, and that project is a project that we worked closely with to ensure that it met the deadlines and could be open in time, that Montego Bay, the hip strip, can start seeing the life coming back that we all want to see. In terms of building and subdivision applications and some of the things that the minister spoke about before he left, we are also working with whenever we have new investors such as hotels and the tourism sector, we have to meet with them, such as the Ministry of Health, the Chief Public Health Inspector, and I have been meeting with a lot of investors, giving them more guidelines so that when they actually get here, it is a smooth transition through the approval process. And that is one of the things. The government is very critical, and we have significantly improved on our doing business indicators, and the development approval process is a critical part of that. And I must mention the Amanda system that is being implemented by the government, which is also renamed to call Jamaica Development Application Portal, called JDAP. And this Montego Bay is one of the pilot parishes that will be implementing phase 2 effective the end of December this year, where developers can make their applications online. So we will start, you can use your card, log in, send in, upload your plans and your all the relevant documents, and pay online is assessed and start process, so you won't have to print the numerous volumes of paper that go through the development application. Now we are in that transition, and we can see many things are happening. Traffic management is a critical area that the council is very concerned about as well. Parking is limited. We at the council we are looking at seeing how we can improve parking on the street along with the UVC and the team. And the council is currently looking at the property where we have the cemeteries to see, based on the length of time, we have a regulation that deals with closures of cemeteries and reusing of that land based on the length of time, and we have already started that process. So, in short order, that will be looked at to see how we can address that. In terms of planning, and we are local sustainable development plan. As was mentioned, the One Bay for All action plan that we were the beneficiary of over the past 5 years through the IDB, which also contributed to the development of our Close Harbor Beach, the waterfront park. That was one of where the council saw it fit out of the resources that were given to us by the IDB to allot a large portion of that towards development and the design of the waterfront park to ensure that public spaces and green spaces are implemented in Montego Bay. We are also moving from just that, we are currently with NEPA reviewing the development order for St. James. And this is important because it will impact on your properties. So lands that you currently have in terms of your density ratio, where typically it's 30 habitable rooms per acre. Some of those we are looking to revise them upwards so that you can have like a minimum of 50 habitable rooms per acre in respective areas. We're touching on the Freeport area, which is a major area of development that will go to with Central Swing System up to approximately 100 habitable rooms per acre, thus giving developers more, they can go to higher levels, increase the number of floor, providing that they can meet all the other standards. So that will encourage developers to can invest more because they'll see better return with that increase. But in terms of moving forward, in terms of the local sustainable development plan, as Robin mentioned some very key points, and this is where the teamwork comes in, and the Chamber of Commerce and the important role that the Chamber needs to play, and the partnership with the local authority. We are there to make sure to govern and manage with the regulations, but the ideas and partnership and resources are very important too, because there are two key things that the mayor is very adamant that we must get out. And with the passing of the Local Government Act, it is mandated that the authority must prepare a local sustainable development plan. And we aim to commence that in the next financial year. We are currently working on the budget for that, and I know that the mayor is also speaking with the TAF on these matters in terms of the disaster and evacuation plan for Montego. What we saw last November shows us the importance of what the reality that climate change is happening and is here. And in terms of, for those that know, a lot of you are familiar with the One Day for All plan, and those who aren't, it is available online as well. It's a very extensive document that even was modeling to show 1%, 1 meter sea level rise to where areas, if we have storm surges, the areas that will be affected. And the large amount of infrastructure that is along the coastline. From our planning perspective and the council being the emergency disaster response for the city as well, we have to look and say what will happen if we do have a major event. How do we move our people and protect everybody? And as we said, Montego Bay is the tourism mecca. So we have to have an updated plan to say how, with the coming of the bypass, is also very critical and something that has been working on for many years. So what we intend to do with all partners is to sit down and come up with that plan so everybody would be aware, every business, and we do have our disaster coordinator who goes into the hotels and have earthquake drills, etc., and help them to be aware for fire monitors, etc., so that we are working together as a unit. Thinking outside the box is what we need to do to ensure that the things that Robin spoke of are also incorporated into our plan. And though we should not follow, we can adapt. I don't like adopting things from other countries. We need to look, and the experience in the tourism sector here spans many decades, and the persons to look and see what makes Jamaica unique and why tourists keep coming back to Jamaica. We're also looking on the area of health tourism that was mentioned, to also look at transforming spaces, and persons in Florida and overseas are looking to set retirement homes, among other things. So these are things that the council we are incorporating in our plans to allow persons who can have these types of activities that we can grant approvals for and working together. The North Gully, and as I mentioned earlier, what happened last year, November 22nd, and shut down a major part of downtown Montego Bay. As you may have seen in the paper that was announced for the check to look at doing something with North Gully. We also, with the IDB, commenced a study, and that should be completed. We were going through the town. Some of the consultants were here with us earlier this week, and we did walk through into Canterbury, Albion, all the way up to look at the area and see what can be done to that area to minimize and control the flow of water, because that is one of our major watershed areas. Exits right out on our waterfront park as well. So there are major plans there. So what we are looking for is from the chamber to form that team with us to ensure that the preparation of our local sustainable development plan incorporates all the views of the chamber to ensure that our product is more adopted by other countries and show why Jamaica is unique. And also the council, November 8th is World Town Planning Day, and under the patronage of His Worship the Mayor Howard Davis, where there will be a conference held called Planning with Climate Change. And this is going to be, we are bringing everyone, all of the major players into Montego Bay, the United, UNDP and Cities Alliance group out of UNDP will be coming down to look with us to say what is the best way that we can work on our sustainable development plan, and also to look at all the areas of how climate change is impacting and how our regulators, NEPA, etc., and the tourism sector, how climate change will impact on the tourism sector, and how we need to adjust and plan for that to ensure that we have a successful foreseeable future. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are running over schedule. We have a question and answer segment. The chamber did not plan to provide lunch. So we have to be out of here by 12 o'clock. So we have roughly 10 to 12 or so minutes for question and answers. Let's get the ball rolling. Questions from anyone? Where's the roving microphone? Yeah. Anyone wishes to ask? I know you got more than a mouthful, but very tasty stuff.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, Ras, Astor Black.
Bob Arts Television. You know, we see the hip strip have several names. It is now being on the billboard on the hip strip, 2 places where it's called Irie Hip Strip with a big red, gold and green on it. And in the shops we find an ashtray with a Rastaman look like he's on Ferngully. We'd like to ask all of the vendors, both Jamaicans and foreigners, to cease and desist from selling that. And I'm sure you agree with me.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a statement. Questions? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. I suppose the meal in China syndrome is...
Thank you. My name is Irina Bruce. I'm the number one budget operational platform. And my question is related to one of the serious issues that are happening not only in Montego Bay but all over Jamaica, and it's not being tackled, and this is relating to stray animals. And I'm not particularly talking about the live ones. So sometimes when tourists arrive and they travel around and they go on A1 highway, and whatever help you reviews, it's fantastic, everything's great, and in the last 2 years it's been like so much improvement. However, when they are driving along the road and they see these issues, and we're talking about animals with problems and so on, the question is it being tackled? I mean, is something being done? Is there a plan in hand, like, to solve this issue? Because it's not only unpleasant, but it does make, some sort of image which is not really positive. Is there something being done about it? Because it's an island. It should be possible to solve this problem,
Could I throw that question at our resource person? Senior Superintendent, would you be in a position to respond to that? Is it a policing issue, the stray animals, or is it the parish council per se? NSWA, all right. You're standing right here. Where is the NSWA now? Over there in the corner. It is not here.
Maybe I missed it in your presentation, sir, but I do recall timelines. So can you please share with us some timelines? I remember last year when the UDC presented at the Investment Day Forum, we got timelines that we should have already broken ground. And so can you just share with us where we are, what can we expect up to full completion of the project?
Okay, hand the microphone to timelines, very important.
We got NCC approval last week. So now with our main ministry sending this Ministry of Economic and Job Creation, sending it through cabinet infrastructure for approval, and then on the cabinet. The plan is to break ground in 20. More likely, depending on the contractor has about 28 days to submit all his bonds and insurances. So we expect more likely that construction kickoff should take place at the first week of January.
On Monday,
18
Okay, Mr. Money Man.
18-month construction period.
All right, excellent question, excellent answer. So we can now keep UDC to specific timelines. Okay, any other question? Anybody? Yes, there are two persons over there. We'll take the lady first, and then the gentleman over there in the corner.
Yes, that is the green space around the airport.
All right.
Yes, I want
gender equality. Yes, go ahead.
Just inquiring about that green space around the airport roundabout. I suspect that the money was spent to set it up. What is it being used for?
All right, take the next question and then we can have both answers. There was a lady here in front who had put up her hand. In the interest of time, yes.
Yes, hi everyone. My question was answered. It was about timelines as well.
All right, so the green space at the airport, who wants to take that one? You take it, bring it to the microphone, please. That green space. Is that really people who are posed for pictures from the Are you referring to the main roundabout? Sir, the gentleman who asked the question, are you referring to the main roundabout?
I don't see what occupying what is it used for?
So that was a design that when I got to this time was in place and in trade. And so we completed the design that was already in place. It really is a green space people in Jamaica for us to enjoy as it will. It's really not designed as it stands for people to go into the space just because of the safety issue. There is a road around it and we don't have facilities to accommodate pedestrians to go to the space. So it's really just to, it was enhanced from what it was, which those of us that are going to be know that space was used from different ways. Over time it was heavily pushed, and so it was cleaned up and we can survive for it. And it's a very pleasing, I believe, space. It's unfortunate that you can't get access because of the limitations of safety.
Okay, we have one more question and then we will close off. Anybody else? Another question? Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was my pleasure to have been the moderator for this morning forum. There's a saying that a rising tide floats all ships, and I suspect it is safe to say that there is a rising tide in Montego at this time. So all of you have whether you have candles or Indian boats or let's all get sailing. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lloyd B. And I will just segue into our vote times at this time. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors because we love them. We would not be able to have this event. So we want to thank the TEF, the Jamaica Public Service Company, Margaritaville, and of course our host, Sea Garden Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, we also want to thank, of course, those who gave address to us, our Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Edmund Barnett. We want to also thank the hard-working team from the Montego Chamber of Commerce for having planned and implemented this event. Mr. Ian Deere, Mr. Robin Russell, Trevian Manning, and Mr. McConnell. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, for continuing to support the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce in its activities, and we are going to hold us accountable for making sure that the plans for the city of Montego Bay is delivered and delivered in short order. Thank you very much again for coming up this morning, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. And please have yourself a productive rest of the day. And of course the media, how could I forget not to thank the media for being here with us this morning. Your presence was felt, and we look forward to seeing you.